President Joe Biden voting early in his home state of Delaware today, a ballot he once wanted to be on himself. How his successor, Vice President Harris, and her opponent, former President Donald Trump, are making their final pitch to voters. I'm Gadi Schwartz, and this is Stay Tuned Now. We are just 8 days away from Election Day. Over 44 million voters have already cast their ballot across the country. And both Kamala Harris and Donald Trump are making their final pitches to those who haven't voted yet. Now, Vice President Harris is on stage in Michigan right now holding her final campaign rally for the day in Ann Arbor. She made a couple of stops across the state today, including one at a semiconductor factory where she touted her administration's Chips and Science Act and how her opponent has said he would get rid of it.
Just recently did a radio talk show and talked about how he'd get rid of the Chips Act. That was billions of dollars investing in just the kind of work that's happening here. There is a choice that the American public, a very serious choice, presented in the next 8 days. And as much as anything, it is a question about what is the direction and the future that we want for our country.
And while the vice president is in Michigan, former President Obama has been holding a Get Out the Vote event in Philadelphia. We're going to have more on that in just a few minutes. Meanwhile, former President Trump is in Georgia tonight. He just wrapped up a rally in Atlanta where he's sharpening his attacks.
It is a choice between whether we will have 4 more years of incompetence and failure or whether or not we will begin the 4 greatest years in the history of our country.
And Trump's campaign stops today came amid a lot of political fallout from his New York rally last night, where a comedian made some racist jokes and other speakers went off.
I don't know if you guys know this, but there's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now. Yeah. I think it's called Puerto Rico.
Kamala Harris, she got 85 million votes because she's just so impressive. As the first Samoan, Malaysian, low IQ, former California prosecutor ever to be elected president.
She is the devil, whoever screamed that out.
Our team is on the ground covering it all. Garrett Hake is in Atlanta. Mike Mimley is in Ann Arbor, Michigan. And campaign in-bed Emma Barnett is in Philadelphia. Now let's start with Garrett. Garrett, Trump has a history of controversy with Puerto Rico. A lot of talk today about that infamous moment where he threw paper towels into a crowd after Hurricane Maria 7 years ago. How's the campaign responding to the backlash after yesterday's rally?
Gadi, interestingly, they're really not, other than that one statement suggesting that the views of that comedian don't represent Trump's on Puerto Rico. They've said nothing else about it. We heard from J.D. Vance basically saying, you know, if you don't get the joke, that's probably on you. But the campaign seems to be hoping that this is the kind of thing they can simply ride out and hope that perhaps some new controversy takes its place tomorrow. And this doesn't have a lot of political staying power.
And what about the voters? What's their reaction?
Well, look, among voters who were paying attention, the reaction was actually pretty notable. And up in Pennsylvania, a colleague of mine spoke to several voters, Puerto Rican descent there, and they were kind of floored by what the former president said. Listen to some of what we picked up in Pennsylvania.
Now I'm in early voting because he fueled up my desire to vote. All those disgusting rhetorics need to be stopped. It's time to take the garbage out, so I'm voting to get it out.
It does impact on the votes because they're not going to vote for Trump. How you want somebody to vote for you when you're talking negative about him?
Gadi, we talk all the time about the Latino vote and the idea that it's not a monolith. I was pulling out some of the data from our last Latino poll, and in it, you can find that people of Puerto Rican descent were a little bit more likely than even Latino voters as a whole to lean away from Trump, to be a little bit more Democratic, a little bit more independent, and to be a little bit more skeptical of him personally. That skepticism could be something that the Harris campaign tries to take advantage of now with these new remarks.
And Garrett, Trump said something about a secret with Speaker Johnson last night as well. Let's play that sound real fast.
And I think with our little secret, we're going to do really well with the House, right? Our little secret is having a big impact. He and I have a secret. We'll tell you what it is when the race is over.
I mean, nothing spells hype like I have a secret and you can't know yet. Like, do you know what he could be talking about here? What's Speaker Johnson saying about this?
Look, I wish I did. Speaker Johnson's office tried to play this off today, basically saying, there were tons of secrets in the last couple of elections pointing to Hunter Biden's laptop or the idea of Russian interference. Why didn't you in the press care as much about those secrets? I think there's really two possibilities here. Number one, it could be related to the idea of a strategy for contesting the election if Trump should lose. I think that's the more conspiratorial possibility. The other thing could simply be about holding the House and what a Republican-controlled House would do in a Trump administration. Mike Johnson, who's only been in that job for a little bit over a year, has had to super glue himself to Donald Trump to make sure that he keeps that job in the future. And so I think watching that relationship in general is going to be fascinating in Washington, especially if Johnson holds the speakership and Donald Trump does win the White House.
Garrett Haake on Secret Watch. Garrett, thank you. And turning now to NBC News Washington correspondent Mike Mimley, who's at Harris's rally in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Hey there, Mike.
Well, Gadi, just 8 days before Election Day, and a huge crowd gathered here in Ann Arbor, Michigan, just feet away from the University of Michigan campus to hear Maggie Rogers, and also from the next potential president of the United States, Vice President Kamala Harris, as well as her running mate, Governor Tim Walz, a rare joint appearance for these two. Now, these kinds of big events, you have Barack Obama appearing with Bruce Springsteen tonight as well. You're going to be a number of entertainers the rest of the week at these campaign events in the battleground states are all about driving enthusiasm and energy behind the Democratic ticket. But we're also seeing a focus on issues in the closing pitch. The vice president today had two earlier stops in Michigan where she focused on accomplishments from the Biden-Harris administration, talking about the CHIPS and Science Act, talking at a semiconductor plant that received funding from the Inflation Reduction Act as well. This is all part of driving a contrast with Donald Trump on the number one issue for a lot of these undecided voters, an issue that she noted he would try to repeal some of those accomplishments. But this is also setting the stage for a closing argument that the vice president is scheduled to give tomorrow night in Washington on the Washington Ellipse, just in front of the White House, the site of where Donald Trump on January 6, 2021, spoke before the insurrection on the U.S. Capitol. It's all part of a message that's designed to put before voters this question of what do you want in the White House? Somebody who, as the vice president will say, is focused on their enemies list, or her who is focused on her to-do list. It's a closing argument that the campaign says she'll then take on the battleground states in the closing week of the campaign. Gadi?
Mike Mimley, thank you. And as Mike just mentioned, celebrities are playing into politics in a big way before the election. Vice President Harris trying to turn up the star power out on the trail with her. But what kind of impact can these celebrity endorsements actually have on voters? Let's bring in NBC News campaign embed Emma Barnett from Philadelphia to talk a little bit more about that. Emma, you were out yesterday when John Legend was campaigning for Harris. What did you see?
Yeah, so first of all, I just want to point out what's happening behind me, which is former President Obama just took the stage here. And for many Democrats in the room, he's a celebrity himself. You can hear the crowd going absolutely wild. John Legend actually performed before Obama spoke tonight, as did Bruce Springsteen. And John Legend hit the campaign trail yesterday with Senator Bob Casey. I don't know if you know this or not, but John Legend actually went to the University of Pennsylvania, so he has that Philadelphia connection. He campaigned at two black churches, spoke at a Canvas kickoff, and the energy at the Canvas kickoff was electric. There were people there who were really excited to see John Legend, and in fact, John Legend is the one who inspired them to go and knock on some doors. Take a listen to two first-time voters I spoke to.
He was able to excite people to vote. He was able to tell people the benefits of voting. So I feel like him as a celebrity will boost the votes, especially in the Democratic Party.
I think they are influential. I think that they have their followers and people that really respect what they have to say.
So those voters who told me that their friends who spend a lot of time on TikTok and on Instagram, who are scrolling through and seeing all these celebrity endorsements, are inspired to go out and vote for the first time. Gadi?
And you got to talk to John Legend about that endorsement. What did he have to say?
I did. So John Legend was spending the day with Senator Bob Casey, and he talked a lot about the importance of not only electing Kamala Harris from his perspective, but also making sure that the Senate stays blue, and a key person to that is Senator Bob Casey. And John Legend spoke to me about a variety of different issues, including black male voters, abortion rights. Abortion rights is actually something he spoke about at this rally here today, too. It's an issue that's personal to him and his family. Take a listen to what he told me, though, during our exclusive interview.
My own family has gone through so many different struggles with reproductive care and maternal care, and so many families are dealing with this all around the country. And these Trump abortion bans that have been enacted since Dobbs was decided have really affected so many lives and actually cost people's lives. I just want everybody to be encouraged that your voice really does matter. And some people don't like doing politics, but politics is going to do you whether or not you do politics or not.
So that was his key message to undecided voters here, and he said something similar tonight. One other fun thing he told me during our exclusive interview, I asked him if he could pick any one of his songs to depict this election. He said it would be Glory, and during his set here at this Obama rally, he ended playing that song. Gadi?
Nima, what about celebrities backing Trump?
Yeah, so there is a list of celebrities who are backing Trump as well, including Dana White, Elon Musk, Dr. Phil. But for a lot of Trump fans, people in the MAGA base, Trump himself is their celebrity. And you really get a sense of that when you go to his rallies and they're wearing their red MAGA hats and really there to see to see former President Trump, who to them is their superstar. Gadi?
Emma Barnett out there in Philadelphia for us. Emma, thank you. And tonight, a Minneapolis man is behind bars after allegedly shooting his neighbor while he was doing some yard work. Take a look at the surveillance video, but a quick warning, it might disturb some viewers. He survived, but 54-year-old John Salchak was arrested early this morning after a 5-hour standoff with the SWAT team. Police say he shot his neighbor that you saw there 5 days ago. The neighbor said he complained to the police more than a dozen times about the suspect's escalating harassment. Here's what he said to NBC's affiliate there from his hospital bed.
I don't call the police for fun. I call because I want my family to be safe. Like, when I tell people what's been happening, they don't believe it. It sounds so crazy. You mean, like, when I tell them I had to call the cops on this guy 30 times, 20, 30 times, and he still wasn't arrested? Like, it sounds crazy.
Let's bring in NBC News correspondent Antonia Hilton. Antonia, a miracle that he's alive, but what did the victim say about what he was going through before all this came to a head?
It really is a miracle, Gadi. The video that has come out of this shooting from Wednesday is just shocking and heartbreaking. And he describes a frankly concerning picture of this escalating rhetoric and tension between him and his neighbor. And he called the authorities at least 19 times to report violence or violent threats, to tell authorities about hate speech and racist remarks the man had made toward him, and to essentially tell the authorities that he was very afraid for himself and for his family. But the man was not apprehended at any point until it came to Wednesday and this shooting occurred. So not only is the victim, who is thankfully being able to get treatment for these serious injuries to his spine, to bones, and a concussion now, he's responding and speaking out about all this, but actually the community surrounding him, particularly the Black community in Minneapolis, is really struggling to process all of this right now, Gadi.
And why did it take so long to arrest the suspect here?
Yeah, that's really the critical issue that has come up in the Minneapolis area here. And what authorities have said is that they made a decision because of the profile, the background of the suspect here, that he has a history of mental illness, according to authorities, that he was known to have firearms in the home and even have knowledge of explosive devices. And the concern from them was that, well, they would approach his home or try to get him out, and there would be a violent standoff. So days went by. It wasn't until 1:30 a.m. last night that right before police were about to send gas into his home to try to essentially smoke him out, that he ended up coming out and was able to be peacefully apprehended. He's now facing attempted murder charges. But take a listen to the mayor of Minneapolis describing this entire process.
What we had tonight was an extraordinarily dangerous situation. You have an individual with mental illness, likely possessing firearms, with knowledge of explosive devices, and all this happening in a residential area. That is a cocktail that could erupt at any moment and requires both the kind of tenacity but also the willingness to do this right.
And Gadi, you can just imagine people are grateful to hear that he is now in custody and will be responding to these charges soon. But still, there's that discomfort from many locals that days went by and he was able to essentially hide in plain sight in his home in a very residential community. And people knew that this man was accused of shooting his own next door neighbor. And for days, it kind of dragged on for them. And it felt like action had not been taken. So expect not only for him to face these charges, but for there to be additional community questions about the police department's decision making here, Gadi.
5 days is such a long time. Antonia Hilton, thank you. And out of the latest in the E. coli outbreak at McDonald's, Quarter Pounders will officially be back on the menu at hundreds of restaurants this week, but with one noticeable difference: no onions. NBC's Christine Romans has more.
The Quarter Pounder will be back on the menu as McDonald's food safety crisis enters a second week. The Colorado Agriculture Department has ruled out beef patties as the source of the E. coli outbreak that sickened 75 people in 13 states. One person died. A McDonald's spokesperson saying the most likely source of the outbreak, slivered onions. In a video message, McDonald's president vowing to make it right.
On behalf of the McDonald's system, I want you to hear from me. We are sorry.
McDonald's no longer sourcing the onions from supplier Taylor Farms, Colorado Springs, saying those onions were sold to McDonald's in Colorado, Kansas, Wyoming, and other states in the area, including airport locations, which could account for cases in other states. Taylor Farms says it will continue to work with the CDC and FDA, saying its products on the market today are safe. 15-year-old Camerlyn Bowler says she ate Quarter Pounders in September and is now in isolation in a Denver hospital with her mom.
It scared me, like I was scared. So I told her, and it's just like, we went to the hospital.
Her medical records show acute renal failure, most likely caused by E. coli.
It's just been scary to see her body work against her. It's been hard. Like, I had to take off time from work. She got on the softball team for her high school. She had to miss her last couple games because she was sick. Like, she went from being super healthy and like no issues at all to possibly kidney damage for her whole life.
Her attorney says he represents 31 families.
There's going to be a lot more cases in this outbreak than 75.
The Quarter Pounder back on the menu, but at some 900 locations, it will be without any onions for now. We'll hear more from the company this week when it reports quarterly earnings on Tuesday. Likely hear what this means for foot traffic at the store. Remember, sales had already been flagging because high prices over the past year had a lot of people eating out less and finding cheaper options. Back to you.
Christine Romans, thank you. And don't go anywhere. We're just getting started. Up next, today marks 1 year since the sudden death of beloved Friends actor Matthew Perry. In an exclusive interview, his family opens up to reflect on what the past year has been like. Plus, some tense times in the Middle East. The world is waiting to see how Iran will respond to Israel's deadly strikes as negotiations continue for a ceasefire in Gaza. Matt Bradley is in Lebanon with the latest. And later this hour, headphones that can read your mind. No, it's not the plot of a new sci-fi movie, but real technology that could help you focus even better and avoid burnout. We got a chance to try them out in tonight's Future of Everything.
I'm going to accelerate the rocket by just focusing on it?
Exactly.
What?
Exactly.
Shut up.
So relax for a second, and then you'll see that the rocket will start to slow down.
Start falling? What the heck?
Yeah,
Whoa.
so you're essentially controlling it 1-to-1 right now.
Hey, welcome back. And here's some of the other headlines we're watching tonight. A 13-year-old girl was killed in another New York City subway surfing incident. Now, police say the girl and another teen were on top of a car late last night. They fell off, then were hit by a train. The other girl is in critical condition. This is the 6th subway surfing death in the city this year alone. The police think ballot drop box fires in 2 states might be connected. We are learning an identical Volvo was spotted near the scenes in both Portland, Oregon and Vancouver, Washington early this morning. The police in Portland say some sort of device was placed inside the box there, but the fire suppressant inside protected almost all the ballots. Meanwhile, in Washington, a device was found next to the box. Hundreds of ballots were damaged or destroyed. And Elon Musk is now facing a lawsuit for the $1 million giveaway we've been telling you about. Philadelphia's DA calling the lottery for registered voters illegal and unregulated, adding lotteries should be regulated by the state government. Musk's America PAC is giving away $1 million a day to one registered voter until Election Day, as long as they pledge to support the First and Second Amendments. The attorney for the PAC has not responded to NBC News' requests for comment. And an actor and comedian involved in the attack on the Capitol was sentenced to a year and a day in prison. Prosecutors say Jay Johnston helped the group make shield walls against police, and he was also part of a push that pinned and crushed a responding officer. And spooky season isn't even over, but we officially have this year's Rockefeller Center Christmas tree. It was found in West Stockbridge, Massachusetts. The 75-foot-tall Norway spruce will start making its way to New York City late next week, and it'll get all dressed up in more than 50,000 lights for its grand unveiling on December 4th. Meanwhile, over at the Grand Canyon, a Native American tribe is fighting to save their home by attempting to shut down a nearby uranium mine. The tribe says it's a threat to their sacred land, and on the other hand, the company says that the environmental studies have proven it to be safe. NBC News correspondent Dana Griffin went deep underground to find out more.
With its stunning beauty and jaw-dropping views, the Grand Canyon is considered one of America's crown jewels. For Diana Suyukwala and Carletta Talusi, members of the Havasupai tribe, it's more than just breathtaking scenery. Diana, is this considered sacred land?
Yes, it's very sacred land.
Their tribe, which lives in the Grand Canyon, has considered the surrounding area to be their ancestral homeland for centuries. But now, Diana and Carletta believe the land is under threat from a nearby uranium mine.
We don't want it, period.
Less than a year ago, the Pinyon Plain mine began extracting uranium ore, which is found in the Earth's crust.
The Grand Canyon is a very internationally known sacred place, and it brings healing to many people, and it deserves to be protected.
The Havasupai have tried and failed to stop the mine in court.
Shut down Pinyon Mine! Shut down Pinyon Mine!
And are now participating in protests. Havasupai leaders say they're concerned about potential environmental impacts here at the Grand Canyon, some 10 miles from that mine. But the company operating it says there's nothing to worry about.
This is not going to harm the Grand Canyon in any way.
Mark Chalmers is the president and CEO of Energy Fuels, the company that operates the mine. What protections are in place for the environment?
Oh, there's a huge number of protections. There have been these reviews done by the U.S. Forest Service, by the ADQ, by our hydrologists. With the monitoring wells, there are no concerns with regard to polluting the groundwater, and particularly harming the Havasupai.
So we're safe to get on the cage?
The company taking us deep inside the mine to see their operation. We are now descending 1,400 feet below the surface to where the uranium is being mined. What would you say to people who say they think that the radiation is going to hurt water supply here and at the Grand Canyon?
I would argue that that's not an issue. We've already been able to show that we can do this safely and protective of the environment.
But for Carletta and Diana, they say this fight has always been personal. If there were a new impact study conducted and it said what the mining company is doing is 100% safe, will that ease your concern?
We don't want uranium mining at our secret mountain.
An uphill battle they say they'll wage until mining ends altogether. Dana Griffin, NBC News, Tucson, Arizona.
Such a comprehensive report. Dana, thank you. And today marks 1 year since the tragic and sudden death of Matthew Perry. The actor died of a ketamine overdose at his home after struggling with addiction for years. Perry's family sat down with today's Savannah Guthrie to reflect on the past year and how they want to help others with addiction. Take a listen.
Even now, something funny I'll see something funny or something ridiculous on the news or whatever, and I go to call him. I have more freedom of a relationship with him now than I ever did. And then it hits me so hard that he's not there.
You go to the cemetery once in a while, she'll sit there and have a chat with him for a while.
What do you miss most about him, Madeline?
Everything.
Our little jokes that we had, his like, give me a squeeze kind of, yeah. He was just always there. What about you, Emily?
What do I miss?
Yeah.
I mean, my brother. He was... Sorry. Like, he was grumpy all the time, but he was funny all the time, and when the people that he loved succeeded, or they were scared, he would do anything for you. Really, all he ever wanted was to love and to be loved. He struggled so much to feel peace. And I think he got to a place where he did.
Is there anything that gives you comfort now? Not that grief ever goes away, because it just doesn't.
I don't think grief ever goes away.
No.
I have found a huge amount of meaning in thinking about the fact that this isn't our tragedy. This happens to people every day.
Nothing special about us, except for the fact that we had an extremely remarkable and famous family member who went through it. And people notice, and people come up to us all the time and say, sorry for your loss. Well, millions of people have had that loss, and we're very aware of that. And that this is not about us. It's about those millions of people. This is a world, it's a hurting world, and it needs some help.
Savannah Guthrie, NBC News.
And the world hasn't been the same since his passing. Coming up, the Pentagon is responding to those mysterious drones seen flying over restricted airspace last year. But don't officials have the power to shoot down those kinds of objects if they threaten national security? That discussion is coming up ahead. But first, you got to see this. The curly-haired, lanky, broody brunettes of New York City gathered yesterday, hoping to be called by Timothy Chalamet's name. There was this viral look-alike contest of the Dune actor at Washington Square Park, awarding a big $50 grand prize to the best Chalamet doppelganger. Well, unexpectedly, the real Timothy Chalamet ended up dropping by since he was filming a movie nearby, taking a bunch of pictures with the brothers from other mothers and fathers. We'll be right back. Hey, welcome back. Let's take a quick look around the world. The Pentagon is confirming that around 10,000 North Korean soldiers are expected to soon join Russia's fight against Ukraine. That's thousands more than first reported last week. The troops could be headed to a region near northern Ukraine. We're also learning that there will be no restrictions on Ukraine to use U.S. weapons if they encounter those North Korean forces. And election results are causing some uncertainty in Japan. The ruling coalition lost its majority for the first time since 2009. A series of scandals involving incumbent candidates appear to have had a big impact on voters, and parties now have 30 days to figure out a new grouping. Over in Paris, actor Gerard Depardieu's sexual assault trial was postponed because of concerns over his health. The 75-year-old wasn't well enough to be in court today with heart and diabetes-related issues. The actor is accused of sexually assaulting 2 women on film sets. Prosecutors stood outside the courthouse holding signs that read, quote, "Victims, we believe you." The trial is now set for March, and he has denied any wrongdoing. And in Australia, a woman was found alive after being missing for nearly 2 weeks and being bitten by a copperhead snake. This all-out search had been going on in a remote mountain range. When they found her, police say the 48-year-old was dazed, not just from the bite, but also from a rolled ankle and dehydration. Copperhead bites can be deadly, and thankfully she is now in stable condition at the hospital. And turning now to the Middle East, the main humanitarian aid agency operating in Gaza has just been banned by Israel. The UN's Agency for Palestinian Refugees, or UNWRA, and the decision comes after months of accusations that some employees were involved in terrorist activities in the region. Meanwhile, a new video out of Gaza is picking up a lot of steam across social media. You might have seen this. This is 6-year-old Kamar, who was recorded hauling her youngest sister over her shoulder as they walked from a hospital. She said her sister was struck by a car near a refugee camp and was in need of treatment. The two kids were helped back to the camp, their story underscoring the impact felt by kids in this conflict. That, along with the hope for the release of roughly 100 Israeli hostages still somewhere in Gaza, is why the U.S. is still pushing for a ceasefire deal now. NBC's international correspondent Matt Bradley has more on that from Lebanon.
Now, in just the past 2 days, we've seen a flurry of diplomacy here in the Middle East, once again trying to start negotiations to free those remaining 100 or so hostages in the Gaza Strip and bring some measure of peace to the Gaza Strip and maybe even to here in Lebanon, where we've seen renewed fighting for the past month. Now, we've seen intelligence heads from Egypt, Israel, and the United States convening in Doha, Qatar, just today and starting yesterday to try to restart these negotiations, which haven't really been going on for the past 2 months. So why now? Well, there was this burst of optimism around this after the assassination of Yahya Sinwar, the hardline head of Hamas, and the man who many people say was the architect of those October 7th attacks last year. But so far, the Israelis have said that their head of the Mossad intelligence agency, David Barnea, has since left Doha and returned to Israel just today. And we just heard from Hamas in just the past couple of hours, a senior official saying that they have already rejected a plan that would create just a 2-day pause in the fighting for the release of just a few of those hostages. Kind of, sort of an offer that the idea would be to pave the way to future longer plans and more hostages released. But already, in just these past 2 days, we've seen this once again returning to the same pessimism that has marked these negotiations ever since the last successful round of negotiations led to a week-long pause in the fighting and the release of more than 100 hostages all the way back in November. But the fact that there's still diplomats talking, that there's still an effort, this could mean that something could happen. The Israelis have said that they're going to be considering something, and it looks as though the Qataris are planning on putting something back to Hamas. So far, there's no real sign that these negotiations could go any further than the failed, repeated negotiations of the past year.
Matt Bradley, thank you. And coming up after the break, a new era of political campaigning is hitting the podcast space as Harris and Trump step up their digital presence. We're going to take a look back at how the campaign media trail has evolved through the decades. And from the first televised presidential debates in the 1960s and the 1970s to Q&A style town halls in the 1990s and late night television, presidential campaigns have always seemed to try to evolve with the times, right?
The television and radio stations of the United States and their affiliated stations are proud to provide facilities for a discussion of issues.
Mr. Ford has shown an absence of leadership.
Governor Carter again is talking in broad generalities.
Could you make a commitment to the citizens of the United States to meet our needs? And we have many.
How do you think it's going to go? It's going to be really classy. It's going to be really fantastic. It's going to be you.
Critics have questioned some of your decision-making recently, and by you doing this show, I hope it finally lays that to rest.
Oh, I think it absolutely proves their case, don't you?
So we were thinking, doesn't 2024's version of that kind of feel like podcasts now? Edison Research reports that something like 135 million Americans listen to podcasts at least once a month. That is a huge jump from the 2020 election and a threefold jump over the last decade. And judging by the blitz of podcast appearances on some of the most popular platforms out there, both the Harris campaign and the Trump campaigns know their listeners could swing a tight race.
Well, look at the ratings.
Yes.
You know, shows like yours. So I have a son who's very smart and tall, Barron, right? And he knows all about you. He knows about guys I never heard of. He said, Dad, you don't know how big they are. They're big. It's a whole new world out there.
I think you and your listeners have really got this thing right, which is one of the best ways to communicate with people is to be real. What I love about what you do is that your voice in your show is really about your listeners.
Joining us now is NBC News presidential historian Michael Beschloss. Michael, thanks so much for being with us. Watching all of this, do you think that we're going to go from old school debates to candidates bypassing traditional media in the foreseeable future here?
Yeah, I think this is the wave of the future because in 1960, you showed that clip of Kennedy versus Nixon, first debate, fall of 1960. They wanted a big audience, and they could only get it by having this debate that was simulcast by the 3 national networks, and that's all there were, CBS, ABC, NBC, and they got 90% of American viewers. Nowadays, you've got podcasts that can reach not only tens of millions of people, as we saw with Joe Rogan, but also you know very precisely who those viewers are. And the other thing, Gadi, is take a look at the effect of debates on presidential candidates this year. It drove Joe Biden out of the race in the summer and also did a lot to damage Donald Trump when he performed badly this fall.
Here's a debate that's kind of happening in that podcast space. More than 60% of podcast listeners right now, millennials and Gen Z. But is this a generational thing, or do podcasts just offer a lot more time for nuance?
They do, and the technology exists now in a way that it couldn't before. For instance, in the 1980s, the way to reach people was over the airwaves, some cable, but there was, as you know, there was a government law that said if you had, for instance, a presidential candidate on, you had to have the opponents as well, equal time. That has gone by the wayside. So I think if people say that Donald Trump or Kamala Harris got a huge advantage from the podcasts they were on this fall, which is probably the case, this really is the wave of the future.
Michael, I mean, the vibe in a lot of these podcasts is kind of like friendly. It's cordial, right? And yet back in the day when there were only the 3 networks and there were these massive audiences, the deal was kind of like, hey, if you want to reach our audiences, you're going to have to answer these tough questions to get to them. What's going to happen to hard-hitting interviews of presidential candidates going forward?
We're losing that because a candidate is not going to be likely to go on a podcast where the podcaster is going to berate him or her for the next hour and a half. It's a way of connecting with listeners and viewers in a way that's so different from the old school, as you were showing with Kennedy and Nixon, where basically each statement was almost a political speech.
And, not to get into the minutia of the polls, but do you already see the podcasts kind of ticking one way or ticking the other?
I think what you'll see at the internal polls that are done by the 2 campaigns is that after, for instance, Donald Trump was on Joe Rogan, I'm sure that in certain demographics he went up and they saw the value of his performing in that venue.
Yeah, I think at the end of that podcast, Trump said something along the lines of, like, my team is trying to hurry me out of here, and yet something along the lines of he knew that it was going to be much bigger than the rally that he had to attend, right?
The day that Kennedy and Nixon debated in 1960 for the first time, Richard Nixon went to a big rally before then because he thought that was probably going to be more important than being on television before these millions of watchers and listeners. That shows you how much things have changed.
And that is historical context right there. Michael Beschloss, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Gadi. Do well.
And as we inch closer to the polls closing, issues in battleground states are in the spotlight. Last week, we talked about fracking in Pennsylvania. Tonight, voters in Arizona say they are eyeing 2 issues in particular, immigration and abortion. NBC News correspondent Liz Schwartz tells us about the dueling ballot measures and how they could impact the entire election.
In battleground Arizona, 2 issues are shaping 2 sides of one very divided political race.
So this is the first election that you have done what you're doing today?
Absolutely. Outside Phoenix, abortion access advocates going door to door.
Hi there.
Targeting registered Democrats who don't always vote, thinking this is the issue that might change that.
Arizonans from across the political spectrum, regardless of their age, their gender, their religious affiliation, they agree with us that pregnant patients should have the freedom to make reproductive health care decisions.
On the ballot, Prop 139, which would enshrine abortion rights into the state constitution. It's an initiative poised to pass that some Democrats hope could give Kamala Harris a turnout boost in a state that went for Biden last election by just over 10,000 votes.
As soon as this cause came up, the light bulb went off. This is the way we're going to get young people and minorities to the polls.
This abortion measure made the ballot because of a huge grassroots effort. In fact, they got more signatures than any other initiative in Arizona state history. And yet, there are other issues driving voters to the polls.
And in some cases, a vote for the abortion measure is not a guaranteed vote for Harris.
So if you vote, you could see yourself voting for former President Trump, but also supporting the abortion measure?
Correct.
If abortion is the issue motivating Democrats, for Republicans, it's immigration. We went south to Tucson, where painting contractor Daniel Gutierrez, who is running for Congress, sees border security as the #1 issue that's getting his friends and family to vote.
There they go. How important is this border issue to voters here?
It's a major issue, even to the Hispanics. Now we got people coming from all over the world here. They're no longer just coming from Mexico.
Like abortion, immigration is also on the ballot. Voters are deciding whether to give local and state law enforcement the power to arrest anyone who crosses the border outside the official port of entries.
Do you think that this bill counters any effect that Kamala Harris might get from voters coming out to the polls?
I think it certainly could. That's what people are worried about. They're worried about money in their pockets and their safety.
2 mobilizing issues, 1 state, and a razor-thin race for turnout. Liz Kreutz, NBC News, Arizona.
Razor thin indeed, Liz. Thank you. Now, for 17 days, mysterious drones, or UAPs, flew over a U.S. military base, leaving the Pentagon confused and unsure as to who was behind it, and that still seems to be the case. But now, at least, the Pentagon is confirming that those drones were, in fact, spotted hovering over Langley Air Base last year, and despite those drones violating U.S. airspace, they were not shot down, even though it looks like the commander of that base did have the authority to do so. And that's just one of the many instances of things flying with impunity over restricted airspace. And in light of all this, NBC News learned on Friday that there will be another congressional hearing on UAPs in mid-November, possibly with witness testimony. I had a chance to speak with Jeremy Corbell about this on Friday. He's a journalist, podcaster, and documentary filmmaker who has published a lot of the videos we're now talking about, and we've been talking about for years. This hearing, what kind of testimony could we see there?
Right. So we are in a crisis right now of journalism in America. And there are a lot of attempts right now to stop witnesses, firsthand whistleblowers to UAP, from testifying. Now, we also have people fighting to allow for that. So the world, one way or the highway, is going to catch up really soon about UAP. George Knapp, my mentor in journalism, and I have been giving briefings on the Hill as recently as today, watching this unfold, just like everybody else at home. I will tell you this. This is the message, and it's already been said by Representative Nancy Mace. Come hell or high water, the hearing is on. Nothing can stop it now. Nothing can. And truth and significant transparency regarding UAP is unstoppable. So what the American and global public does with that, that's up to them.
Jeremy, if I can, I want to play a bit of what the Pentagon said about those drones flying over Langley, the situation over Langley, if you don't mind. Take a look.
The number of those UAS incursions did fluctuate on any given day. But they didn't appear to exhibit any hostile intent. It's something that we, have kept our eye on.
So when you hear didn't appear to indicate hostile intent, what goes through your mind?
Right. So, Gadi, I think for your audience, I could sit here and I could answer your questions, but I think their questions will be answered soon enough with these hearings, the 13th of November, because they're going to happen. And I'd just like to say to your audience, as a journalist in America, I fear no thing real or fictitious, and I embrace the truth, no matter how challenging that is for people to process. So look, man, UFOs, UAP, there are incursions on sensitive military installations. In fact, I've reported with George Knapp and you, Gadi, a lot about that. but that is a small, tiny piece of opaque glass in a larger mosaic of what UAP represent or could represent to the American and global public. I do have one message that I want to leave you with today, Gadi, and this is for every whistleblower, every American patriot who has come to me as an American journalist and who has put trust in me and George Knapp. It's actually from a song by a guy called Livingston. I just learned this song. Here's what it conveys. Do not fear the truth. Fear is just your own shadow on the floor, and don't forget it. So listen, Gadi, we're going to have a different conversation after and on November 13th, because we are having congressional hearings on UFOs, and the world is going to learn things they didn't know before. And I do hope that you have solid individuals sitting there in that chair. And I think with Representative Nancy Mace at the helm, people that are heroes for this in the UAP caucus are going to make sure of it.
Fingers crossed. November 13th. Maybe we'll get some straight answers then. Jeremy Corbell, thanks so much for taking the time with us today.
Thank you, Gadi, for your reporting.
Before we go, it's time for the future of everything. Nowadays, there's all kinds of tech for tracking your health. So why not tracking your brain? And tracking your brain headphones, how this new tech could help reveal how our minds really work in real time.
So this torture device that looks like it's from a movie is what this can do.
We get about 90% of the same signal correlation as that large device.
And in tonight's Future of Everything, headphones. And not just the kind you probably use every day, but the kind that can analyze your brain. Now, that sounds like science fiction, but it turns out the future is a lot closer than I thought, as we found out when we tried on a pair. Take a look.
So I'm going to control this rocket with telepathy, basically.
Exactly.
Okay.
Imagine you're Luke Skywalker.
A Jedi mind trick this is not.
Focus, and you're going to start to see that the number will get bigger.
In fact, these headphones could be the future of brain science.
These headphones, they're not just playing music.
They have these sensors called electroencephalography, or EEG. And what those sensors do is when your neurons are firing your brain, if the signal is large enough, it can actually be picked up externally around your ears.
Then using AI, they track how your brain focuses in real time, whether you're working on your laptop or just walking down the street. We went to Neurable's Boston-based headquarters to test it out.
I'm going to give you an article here to read.
Okay.
And this article actually has a piece of data that will actually be able to see in real time how it affects your focus.
As I was reading, the headphones were detecting tiny electrical impulses emanating from my skull.
This was you reading this article. Mm-hmm. Then you hit this really long ad, and you can see how it dropped your focus.
So that ad dropped my... It's almost like what happens when people see a commercial, and then they're just like, and then they come back in.
And the next test felt kind of like telepathy.
With this rocket, the more you focus, the faster the rocket is going to go.
I'm going to accelerate the rocket by just focusing on it?
Exactly.
What?
Exactly.
Shut up. Oh, man, we're off.
So relax for a second, and then you'll see that the rocket will start to slow down.
Start falling? What the heck?
Yeah,
Whoa.
so you're essentially controlling it 1-to-1 right now.
Wow.
Users can then access their own brain data through an app. Instead of tracking steps, you're tracking strain on your brain.
There's so many different things about myself that I could improve with more data, and this is the first step there.
And with our brains packing 86 billion neurons, Neurable says the more data they get, the more they're learning about how differently people's brains work.
I have had ADHD my entire life, and it's always been a problem. Do you have any data on ADHD?
And so here to the left, you see essentially an individual who's been reading a book for an hour and 45 minutes. Right? Their focus is relatively high in this green zone. Right. They start to get tired. We tell them to take a break, and then it goes back up into the green zone. Right. And when we dug deeper into the data that we had that wasn't following the similar pattern, a lot of these individuals reported having ADHD. And you can see how much more variable the focus is.
It's crazy to see ADHD graphed out like this.
Yeah.
And yet it makes instant sense.
Some experts think this kind of technology could be promising for the future of medicine and neuroscience.
We might be able to take more proactive steps than reactive steps. And as folks are living longer, I think being able to make diagnoses even before they materialize is going to be revolutionary.
Do you think this type of tech should be regulated?
The regulation that we have already is enough to keep us safe. Once we start to go into invasive technology, that's where we probably want to be a little bit more careful.
Where do you see this tech in 10 years?
I see that anything that you wear on your head become a standard part of your normal life. Really, the brain is the next frontier in how we use our technology and better understand ourselves.
I gotta say, very wild to see what your focus looks like in real time, kind of like looking at a mirror of your brain. Crazy story. That's gonna do it for us tonight. I'm Gadi Schwartz. We'll see you here tomorrow, but until then, stay tuned now.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.